I highly recommend that. I want to show you something else. When I was at the bottom of the barrel, and I had bottomed out, and I was trying to sober up, but I didn't know how. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and this is about 1995. And it was the first year that I had lost my family, and I was living at some loser bachelor apartment, that was, the only guys that lived in this apartment complex were guys, they were all divorced men, and we're all like, hey, loser too, huh? Good for you. And I couldn't afford Christmas for my kids. And it was also the year that my second oldest daughter, the magic was beginning to wear off. And she didn't believe in Santa. And she asked Santa for one thing only, and I ask you to go with me on this story. She asked for one thing from Santa, and she didn't tell her mom or dad. She put the envelope in the mail herself. She wrote it herself, and when I said, hey, we got to write a letter to Santa, she said, oh, I already took care of that. And I said, what'd you ask Santa for? And she said, now that would be between me and Santa, wouldn't it, Dad? And it was. And on Christmas, she came down to the tree, and she had, toys and everything else. But there wasn't the one thing that she really wanted. She wanted one of Santa's sleigh bells. And fortunately, it had snowed the night before, and I realized that Santa had not, had probably put it in his pocket, and when he was going into the chimney, it probably fell out of his pocket. So the next day, we would have to go look, because it was very snowy and cold that day, and so we would have to go. I'd come back the next morning, and we'd check around outside and search through the snow. Well, lo and behold, when we went out, she found the sleigh bell, and it happened to be, surprisingly, almost right where Dad said it probably would be. And I just had it framed for her last year. And there, if you're watching at home, is an actual sleigh bell from Santa. There it is. Put it there. And I wrote on the back, which is her favorite part, the story of the sleigh bell. It doesn't take much sometimes to create memories. Back in a minute.
Time of the year with the kids jingle bells.
Does anybody remember this album from Andy Williams? When I was a kid, this was, remember the turntable, the record player? They were the big, huge console stereos. They were like the size of a Buick. And my mom would come and she'd put 8 albums up on the top. And then somehow or another, we couldn't figure out why the records were always sounding like really scratchy. They would fall down on the other one and turn. Last year, I got a chance to meet and talk to Andy Williams. And I told him about how meaningful this album was to me. And in particular, the song Little Altar Boy, because it spoke volumes about my mother. It was her favorite song, and it's a song, I don't know if you know the words to it, but it's a song about how she needs the little altar boy to go say a prayer and tell the Lord that she's going to change, and she doesn't feel worthy to approach him anymore. And that's the biggest lie about Christmas, is that we wouldn't be worthy to approach anymore. But I wanted to include a couple of CDs that I love. I love this one, and these are all friends of the show. John Rich, Son of a Preacher's Man, and I don't know if you all know Michael Bublé. All the ladies are like, oh yeah. All the men are like, yeah, it's son of a. Michael Bublé is one of the best. He's, I think, the best performer on stage ever. And I know Michael fairly well. He got into a fight in Canada over me. He said somebody, that kind of sounded wrong, didn't it? Sorry, Michael. He was in Canada at a hockey game, and somebody's like, I can't believe you're with Glenn Beck. And he's like, hey, dude, I'm Canadian, back off, and got into a hockey fight, and I appreciate that. He's a decent guy, and somebody who still experiences the joy of what he does. And if this isn't a case of you can just make something, and Brighton, somebody say, this was made by a viewer of ours. I'm not sure if it was given as a really nice, heartfelt thing or mocking me. I'm not really sure, but it's a tissue cozy. But I want to go to the audience, and let's see, we wanted to go to Christine. Christine, you actually received a pretty unbelievable gift.
Yes. 12 years ago, I received a heart and liver transplant. And holidays are very important for me now. I mean, I have life, and I'm glad to be with my family. My sister flew in from San Diego to be here for your show, and I go to San Diego. I live here on the East Coast. And
where are you from? I can't figure your
Jamaica.
Jamaica. Okay.
Yes.
What happened to your heart and your?
I have lupus, and it attacked my heart, and then it attacked my liver, and I had congestive heart failure at 25.
Holy cow.
And then I got I was sick from 17. I had an autoimmune disease, and they took my spleen and gallbladder out. And then I was okay for a while. They put me on prednisone, and I weighed 210 pounds at one time. My face was just all bloated. And then I got the lupus, then it attacked my heart and liver. And then they tried to I got stones in the bile ducts of my liver that just completely blocked it up. And they tried to operate and take the stones out, and my heart got weaker and weaker. They put a defibrillator in me, and I was in ICU for 11 weeks waiting on my double transplant.
Holy
and the
cow.
night, it was October 24th, 1998. And I looked at my parents. My father had gone down to the synagogue, we're Jewish, to pray, and he came back up. It was 5:15 in the evening, and I looked at my parents, and I said, just let me die. I can't take this anymore. I was on dialysis, and I'd given up hope because I wanted to live so much, but nothing was happening, and I was getting sicker and sicker. I couldn't breathe. I didn't feel my heart anymore. And at 5:45 that evening, on the 24th of October, the call came in that I was being transplanted. And I went from knowing that I was going to die to knowing that I was going to live. And my cardiac surgeon came into the room, and my cardiologist, and he prayed with me. And we thanked my donor family in our prayers for what they were going through, probably a horrible time, but they had donated life to me. And I went into surgery, and I said to my parents, I'll see you soon. 12 hours later, I woke up. They took the breathing tube out 6 hours after, and from then, that day, I've never looked back. I did the New York City Marathon on my 3rd anniversary of my transplant.
Holy cow. Congratulations. Good for you. All right, so everybody, give a spleen this Christmas. Back in just a second. I want to talk about another group that is thought of, but not necessarily the families. We were just talking about military, who has members in the military now. How do you have somebody in the military?
My brother Brian is in the Marines.
How long has he been away?
4 years.
4 years. Katie?
My brother-in-law Daniel, he's a Marine, but he's home now.
But will he be going back out?
Yeah, I think next year.
Daniel?
A nephew in Afghanistan.
How long has he been gone?
Several months. He's
Several
been
months.
in the reserves for over a year or two.
And down here, Ethel, who do you know that is in the military now, serving?
Son, 2 tours.
Your son is 2 tours. How long has he been over?
He's home now.
He's home now. You know, we are concerned about soup kitchens, and I'm going to be in Wilmington, Ohio, and we're trying to help this town out, get back on their feet, and it's not really, we're going to get more from them than we're given to them. That there is an amazing town that is started a prayer room for the whole town. Right in the center of town, they have these churches, all 34 of them, and they're switching off. So there's somebody there, at least one person, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, praying for people in town. And the soup kitchen, they don't take anything from the state or from the federal government, and they go and they lay their hands on the shelves, which are empty many days, and they serve, I think it's 250 families or 250 meals in a day or something. It's powerful for not having any food. They lay their hands down and they're like, okay, God, we're your children. We need help here. I would ask that when we think of our troops, we think not only the guys who are over there in battle right now, but we also think of their families. I think one of the best ways we can support our troops is to make sure that they know that they don't have to worry about their children and their families here. Please, for a year, adopt a military family and make sure that they're okay. God bless. Back in a minute. For a list of my favorite things, go to glennbeck.com and click on the list. You'll find where you can find some of these things, but most of them can be found here. From New York, good night, America.